The next speaker is the organizer, one of the organizers of the meeting, P McLean. Pete has been working for a long time at Sea Life Center Scheveningen, and since how many years now? You're regional manager of...
last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, last 2 or 3 years, regional manager of Sea Life Europe, except for Germany. So, and you're going to talk about a monster, so I'm very curious to hear.
About the monster, I'll explain.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Max. Hi, good morning. Okay, I'm going to be talking about flip, and you may ask yourself who or what is flip? Well, flip is a Kemp's Ridley sea turtle. It's the smallest species of sea turtle, also the most endangered, and they don't help themselves too much because it's the only species that comes ashore during daylight hours to lay eggs. Now, normally they occur in the Gulf of Mexico and up the eastern seaboard of the US, and there was until recently only one beach where they all came ashore to lay eggs. That's in Rancho Nuevo in Mexico. That's the Arabada. And they all come ashore at the same time, more or less, to lay eggs. Until recently, there's another nesting site since been discovered in Padre Island in Texas. Now, flip, this is ideal for them, but for flip, she took a wrong turning and ended up stranding cold stunned on a beach in Monster in the Netherlands in December 2011. And that's how she looked when she stranded. Now, luckily, there's somebody, Frank Hofland, was out for a walk that day, and he saw her. He thought it was a deflated football, took a closer look, realized it's a turtle, and so he called the deer ambulance, the animal ambulance, who came to collect Flip. That's Frank who found her. He's a very nice man. So it's Flip waiting for the ambulance. And then they brought Flip to Sea Life Scheveningen, where she was cleaned. She was, wounds were disinfected. A couple of small wounds on her back. They look worse than they are. She was cleaned, disinfected. She was weighed and put in a course of antibiotics. It's a Baytril injectable. When she was weighed, she was less than 2 kilograms, which is hardly anything at all. Then after that, she was taken for x-rays to make sure that there was nothing internally wrong. This is the disinfection here. And antibiotics. And the weighing, 2 kilograms. And the x-rays. Luckily, she was perfectly okay, apparently nothing wrong with her. And she was also chipped, but she wouldn't feed. So this initially, we thought, okay, it'll take some time for her to start feeding, but as time went on, she still wouldn't feed, so we had to start force feeding, and that's, with a turtle, not easy. So you have to open the beak and then push some food in, but if you push it too far, you can damage the throat. If it's not far enough, the turtle won't take the food. And you also have to be very careful with your fingers, because it's a turtle. But this worked. This is after being chipped. And after a month, she started feeding independently, and that was the turning point for her. Then we started getting more confidence in her. We tried to avoid target feeding so that she'd retain her hunting instincts. And her wounds were healing, starting to put on weight, and until then it had been touch and go whether she would survive or not. We really didn't know, and it was very nerve-wracking. So then we could think about a release. So the first thing we had to do was consider getting CITES papers for her, so export from the Netherlands, import to the US, because she's going to be returned to the Gulf of Mexico. Again, returned to the Gulf of Mexico, and we thought the CITES papers, we'd been told the Americans would take a long time to get these organized. As it happened, they were very, very efficient, thanks to Tom Shearer of the US Fish and Wildlife Authority, and he helped us enormously to arrange papers for her. As you can see, her weight had increased considerably. So, yeah, the release was being planned. We had to be also very careful with the timing of the release because of the shrimp fishery in the Gulf of Mexico. Now, the shrimp fishers are obliged to fit turtle excluding devices to their nets, but a lot of the fishers believe that this reduces the catch of shrimp, So they disable these turtle excluding devices. So this is something that needs to be addressed as well, just for education. And then it was a matter of arranging for flights, and KLM sponsored a flight, which was very good of them. This is the transport box, just made according to the EATA regulations, of course. And then we got the media attention, also very important, because we have to make sure that people are well aware of the problems that the animals are facing, and also what we as public aquaria are doing to resolve these problems. So we have to make sure they know this. And then last checkup by the vet, and then it's small feed and off to Houston. And she was flown to Houston, where she was met by the US Sea Life team. Oh, and Marjolein Kemner from Scheveningen, who's here, the curator from Scheveningen. She accompanied Flip on the journey to make sure Flip was okay. So they were met in Houston by the US Sea Life team and the US authorities, and then they took her down to the ARC. It's the Animal Rehabilitation Keep in Port Aransas in Texas. And that's where her condition was assessed. She's checked up, and then a release date was fixed. And just before her release, she was fitted with a satellite tag. It's an Argus system, so we could track her movements. You can see the tag here. Now, the tag might have lasted for 2 days before it fell off. It could have been 2 months. We didn't know, but it was worth the effort because there's very little known about the movement of Kemp's Ridley turtles. So we tried it anyway. We're also concerned about the epoxy being used to fit the tag to the carapace, but the carapace is not porous, so this is not a problem at all. And this is the result of the movement. The date you see there is the last day we had contact with Flip, which was quite a sad day, actually, but we're very glad that she's out on her own and doing well. And luckily she stayed only in the shallow water, which is where they feed on crab, crustaceans, what have you. She's doing very well, and there's a male turtle, Travis, had been released about a month before, and we followed his track as well, and he was staying in roughly the same area. So it looks like she's in the right place. And the other image is of Flip's Freedom, Times Square in New York, and that's the kind of level of awareness we need to raise. And none of this would have happened without the help of these people. Frank Hofland, who founded the Deer Ambulance, who rescued her. RAFON, it's a Dutch conservation group for advice. Tom Shearer. Donna Shaver is the one who discovered the other nesting site in Padre Island. Tony Amos of the ARC, KLM. Max for his advice. And Henk Zwartepoorte and Sea Life colleagues both in the Netherlands and in the US. And it was really a tremendous amount of teamwork, and it's something we'll never, ever forget. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Pete. And any questions? Here?
My question is, why didn't you put the turtle again in seawater, in the sea, after the bad season in Europe, on the Europe coast?
In
Why did you travel it by plane to Mexico?
Because the turtles don't occur in Europe.
Because
They don't occur in Europe.
Because every year there are turtles on the European coast, Caretta,
Caretta, yes, but not Kemp's Ridleys. Kemp's Ridleys occur only in the area of the Gulf of Mexico and the eastern seaboard.
In the French coast, Atlantic coast, we have every year some less than Caretta, but also once arrived in Nausicaa, we have several camp on the Atlantic coast. It's regularly seen on the coast. Yes.
Okay, so then you have sporadic examples of Kemp's Ridleys. They're sporadic. And bear in mind, until a few years ago, there were only about 1,000 female Kemp's Ridleys left. 1,000. So if we were to return Flip, in an area where there are the chances of meeting any other turtle of the same species, let alone a male for breeding, where there's no chance of nesting, you're doing the population no good at all. So the only way to go is to put her back where she's the best chance of, first of all, survival, secondly, breeding success. We have to do this. I think. Well, I know. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Max.